So, this video with regards to understanding how to design your website. Super key, obviously, because when you are building your brand awareness, your website will be a surefire thing to help you to do that, for sure. So you want to make sure that you're putting in some key aspects or addressing key things all along your website journey, because essentially that's what you're doing for your viewer. You're taking them on a journey. So help them to understand you, help them to understand the entirety of what you do to a certain extent, but equally, not only what you do, but how you do it and how you can do it specifically for your audience. Because a lot of people, folks, do not address the audience. They forget about the audience and focus on the service or focus on the product. This particular video will help you to understand as to how you can actually keep that focus, not only directed to your audience, but equally to how you can help them specifically. Now, I will be doing a separate video as to how you can actually design a website for a product-based business, but for this particular purpose, I want to focus on the service-based businesses. And when I'm talking about service-based businesses, I'm talking about anybody who literally has a service to offer anybody you're helping. And even as a personal brand, this video is actually going to be great for you as well. So that being said, please make sure that, as always, you go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel. And even if you are a product-based business wanting to understand the basics as to how to actually design your website, still watch this video, because you're going to get some key points from it off the back that will actually double up and equally reinforce what I'll be sharing with you in my next video with regards to product-based businesses. Also, stick around to the very end of this video, because I've got some key things that I want to make sure that you're actually taking on board and actually implementing with regards to a couple of principles that will actually help you to make sure that you keep the momentum going as to what I share with you off the back of this video as well. Now, these things will be able to make sure that you're not only building your connections properly as they should be, but they help you to understand also who your audience should actually be. And for building your website, you really need to know who your audience is. But you can only know who they are if you've done some key specific background checks. And these principles will help you to understand what those background checks should be, but equally also how to make sure that you're actually speaking to the right people. Because if you're not, I'm sure you'll agree, you're just going to be hitting your head against the wall, understanding or trying to figure out even why the hell is nobody responding. Well, they're not responding because you haven't addressed them. They're not responding because you haven't actually spoken to them. When you hit these key points, you're going to know who exactly to speak to, why you should be speaking to them, and how it is that you can really help them. Because folks, as always, I want you to understand that you are more than what you see. So when you believe and understand that aspect, you'll know exactly who to speak to and why you're speaking to them more specifically. And not only on that, representation matters. It is super key. I cannot stress to you enough why it is key, but it is super key for somebody else to be able to see themselves in you, for somebody else to be able to see themselves that you have an answer to a way forward. If you don't showcase that, if they can't see you, if they don't know you, if they don't understand the awareness that you're trying to build, the purpose for why you're doing what you're doing gets lost. And you need to be able to make sure that your mission is understood. You need to be able to make sure that that process as to why you're taking them on this particular journey is really appreciated, valued, and again, understood. So that being said, folks, please make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel, because I share information just like this and then some all around the idea of branding, why you need it, and how you can actually do it without losing yourself in the process. Because again, that's super key. And a lot of people get fumbled in the details of certain things, but if they just knew key specific directive ways to be able to make sure that they can move forwards in a way that they understand, well, then their journey would be a hell of a lot more easier, only in a sense because they now get it. Branding helps you to get the real reason as to why you do what you do, but equally specifically who it is that you really do help. That being said, folks, let's get stuck into this video. So, okay, as I said, we're going to be talking about how to design your website. Now, when it comes to designing your website, there are roughly about 4 to 5 different pages that you should really consider. If you need more, consider why you need more. But however, always make sure that you have these 4 to 5 key different pages in your back pocket, more specifically on your screen when it comes to actually building your website, right? So now the basic that you should always be thinking of is the idea of your homepage, or otherwise known as your landing page. Okay. Now your homepage is split into different sections, but your main section that you really want to make sure that you put some power-packed information on. And when I say about power-packed, it needs to be very short, sharp, and concise, but only short, sharp, and concise in a directive kind of a way that literally speaks to your audience, why it is that you do what you do, but equally also how it is that you can actually help them. For example, I help service-based entrepreneurs to not only stand out from the competition, but to also make sure that they build those better connections, maintain those relationships, and actually show up in a way that's congruent to their standards and their beliefs, all so that they can start winning new, better business. Now, how can you make sure that you grab the attention of your audience? How can you make sure that you're actually delivering the information that they need in that moment of time to be able to want to find out more? And that wanting to find out more process is known as scrolling. That means moving down, that means moving across, that means clicking onto the next page. How are you helping them to do that? So as you continue on down your page, the other things that you want to make sure that you are now addressing: your service, the overview version of your service, by the way. And actually overview is a very key, key focus word you can have for this page, for the homepage. Give an overview as to what it is that you do, how it is that you help people. Yes, obviously your hours as well, you can address that, but I'll show you exactly where. But think about, as an overview, how can you make sure you give people a summary as to what it is that you do, why it is that you do it, and equally who it is that you help. Okay, so that's essentially the homepage in a nutshell. But one key thing that a lot of people will tend to do a little bit later on their website rather than on this particular page is actually help others to understand, who else have you helped? Who else have you helped? And what I mean by who else have you helped, talk about your testimonials, showcase your testimonials, in fact, whether they be quotes, whether they be even testimonials by way of endorsements. Those are still testimonials, and those are still very, very key and important to be able to share. If you have images of people, go ahead and share them. Obviously, make sure you get permission from the people that you're talking about. If you have videos of people, ooh, now that's the gold. If you've got videos of people actually giving an actual virtual testimonial, those key things, and please actually keep them to real testimonials. I know we're in the land of AI right now, and the magnitude or the impact that AI can actually have is huge and great. However, let's be truthful to your service, to your product, to what it is that you do, because you want to lead with integrity of your business, right? So why not start from using real information? Now, that aside, make sure that you are sharing testimonials that are relevant also to the idea of what it is that you're doing and why it is that you're doing it. And I'm specifically saying these things over and over again because I want you to understand the key information that you always want to be addressing when it comes to building your website. What is it that you're doing? Why is it that you're doing it? How can you actually help the person, your audience? But more specifically, who are you addressing? Who are you talking to? Always address the aspect of who it is that you're talking to, because if you don't know who you're talking to, well then how is your viewer supposed to know that you're talking directly to them? So really have that in mind. Now, that's your homepage. And yes, it's a little jam-packed. However, jam-packed with purpose. Always please make it with purpose. And when I'm talking about with purpose, you keep information super concise, super direct, to the point where you're literally answering specific questions within your own mind that helps your audience to get it. But more specifically, that you understand them and they equally now understand you off the back of just this key, cut and concise information. So remember, always have those questions in mind to be able to move forwards with this specific page, but also keep it in mind for the other pages that follow through as well on your website. Now, moving on to the next page, we're going to go straight into the About section because I feel like this particular page can kind of be overlooked and very just like poof, done in a very spur of the moment kind of a thing, because people aren't quite easy with sharing. No, because, and now this particular next page, the About page. this is where you share your story. You share your bio, you share who it is that you are and why it is that you're really doing what you're doing. This is where people get to understand you. Now, if you're building your business brand, how this particular page works, it starts from the journey of the business. Who created the business? Why did they do the business in the first place? And equally, why are they helping these key specific people in this kind of a way? If it's to do with a smaller type of business, when it comes to you personally as the business owner, if you're sharing that information, so I guess as a personal brand, right? You want to make sure that you are sharing the story of you. What is it that made you want to get on this journey in the first place? You know, why do you want others to come and jump on your bandwagon? What is that? This story, the about you, the bio will share that. And again, you can keep it super clear, cut and concise. Ask yourself questions like, why did you do this? Why did you start? Why are you helping in this kind of a way? When you ask yourself those questions, again, it will help you to structure your website, your about you page more specifically, out in a way that literally hits the nail on the head for anybody coming across your page. Now, when people get it, they will want to stay and pay more attention, right? When think about how you actually take in information. If you're actually understanding, you'll want to stay a little bit longer to find out more. Essentially, that's what you're doing when it comes to the building of your websites, more specifically the About You page, because you're building that connection now. Your About You page is all about how you start building that personal connection. Okay, now we're going to move on. Next page is looking at the How It Works page. Now, a lot of people will tend to miss this bit out. And it's crazy because people need to understand this bit more specifically. If you are not sharing the process, which is essentially the How It Works page, if you're not sharing the process, well, people will always have that question in mind. They might not want to find out even more, because if you're trying to hide it, what else are you trying to hide? What else are you not telling me? People like the upfront information, right? They want to do the research as much as possible so that they can move forwards and make that concise decision as to how they want to move forwards with you. So share how it works. Share the process. And now, I'm not talking about giving the whole game away. By the way, when you're creating your website, when you're designing your website, do not give the whole game away. However, you give enough information that still encourages your customer, your client, your prospect to want to find out even more about yourself by doing this last thing as well. But I'm not going to just touch base on it just yet, but I'm pretty sure you can get it. When it comes to the How It Works page or the process page, share with them what happens at stage 1, then stage 2, stage 3, all the way through to them actually getting their project delivered, whatever that may look like. What is that process? Now, for me, I'm not a cookie cutter kind of business, in the sense where a lot of what I do is, especially when it comes to branding, it is unique to the individual. However, the general process as to how I help people is essentially the same. People jump on a call with me, we agree whatever needs to happen and how we move forwards. Then a brainstorming session gets booked in. On that brainstorming session, we discuss X, Y, and Z. Then the next part is the design process actually happens. Whatever the design or whatever the project needs or is requiring, that happens in the design process. Then we move on to the final stage. And at that final stage is where we discuss, what's your roadmap? What's the next journey? What is next? So what is your process for yourself? How are you sharing that information with your audience? Okay. And another little added key thing here that you can add into the How It Works or the process page, add in some FAQs because people want to find out even more additional questions. Again, remember I said at the beginning of this video, you're talking or literally addressing to your audience the key questions, or you're answering, in fact, the key questions that they have within themselves. How are you answering their questions, and how can you make sure that they have all the information that they need in order to be able to make that decision to move forwards with you? Have a list of FAQs, typically asked questions or frequently asked questions, right? That literally addresses anything that they are thinking of. Help them with this journey.